Right. It's been about a week since we posted the video calling out our one of our abusers for being an abusive asshole. Hey, Bram. And since then, our whole fucking family's response to it was like the same shit as I've witnessed my whole life. What I would consider to be the mum I had, and the aunt I had, and the aunt and mum that other people in here had. They're very fucking different. I'm used to being gaslit. I'm used to being victim blamed. I'm used to a ton of scapegoat shit. I'm used to an undercurrent of what actually happens not aligning with what they say is happening. But I don't think the other people in this system have seen it a lot, since a lot of their defences were around the form mode. Certain parts of us were accepted and loved. It felt to me like parts of us where our family could see themselves were accepted, and parts that went against what they believed and what they understood were isolated, rejected, disowned, but all the time while saying we love you unconditionally. Not often, but it was said. They weren't acted on. If I held up a boundary, even as a kid, if I said something wasn't fucking okay, it would just be, just try it, push. Oh, you feel so bad. Oh, you have to think about this person's feelings. It was always put the abusers first and think about how hard their life's been and turn the other cheek. And all sorts of bullshit that I went, no, fuck off, I'm going to do that. But if I went, no, fuck off, I'm going to do that, then we'd get the silent treatment. We'd get screamed at. I'd be screaming back in her face. We'd get guilt tripped, and it didn't exactly work on me, but was triggering as all hell until I learned to detach from it. I mean, from the ability to feel guilt. Still a bit of a conscious choice these days. We had to cut off contact with our mum and aunt because they were still doing the same shit they've done our whole lives. Anytime Vi would bring up to them what it felt like, what they were doing, let's take an example. The last message from the mum. So we got this timeline of events, right? Spent the last 2 years trying to talk to her about things like boundaries, behaviours that are inherited through trauma, toxic traits, things about actions and words not aligning. Really serious shit that we've explained very thoroughly. And we did it step by step. We did it slow. Vi made videos for her, linked her to resources, bought her a journal, lent her books. And over again the mum would say, I'm not going to do the work. Well, that sounds really hard and I don't want to. And Vi would say, if you don't do it, it is hard. We have to do it every day. But if you don't do it, what happens is that these toxic behaviours still come out of people and you make other people responsible for regulating your emotions, for your trauma, for your shit. And it's the sort of thing that we have been parentified because of. And it hurts us. And it damages us. And she said, well, I just won't see you then. And Vi said, do you see how this in and of itself is the response of an inner child? Because it's not a practical solution, is it? And she didn't respond. And it went like this. Every interaction. No real practical in long run solutions. When we started holding boundaries and saying, look, we have to distance ourselves. You have to have less contact if you're not going to change your behaviour. Then if you say things like, I ain't going to do the work, it makes us feel like you're saying we're not worth you doing the work. We had loads of these conversations. At one point the mum said, well, I will try really hard to do the work then. And Ryan coming back into the room, making sure we're not filming people without their consent. Because, did you realise that's fucking important? It's not a shot at you as a viewer, it's a shot at one person. Actually, a few. So, she'd say, she said, you know, at this point, I really will try really hard to do the work. And we were like, alright, good. You know, we're here. Whatever form is easiest for you, we'll help you find a reputable therapist. We'll make sure they're trauma informed. We'll tell you what we know. We have very intense conversations, teaching things that we have been practicing, things that we've learned in therapy, willing to answer any question, help delve into what things come from in the childhood. For like 2 fucking years we're doing this. But the behaviours stay the same in practice. Because when we bring up things like, we remember what you said in this context. We remember proof of times that you have condoned abuse, that you have encouraged abuse. She'd go, no, I wouldn't do that. No, I'd never say that. And we'd be like, do you think we're lying? She's like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant in my head I didn't mean it like that. Which at least is that is not gaslighting to say I didn't. But then we were just like, you know, intent don't equal effect. Because it don't matter. Things like, you know, why didn't you ever protect us? I don't know. It's the only answer we'd get. I don't know. Or you're right, that is wrong. But it always felt like she was pissed off. Never say it, but felt like it. And waiting for the conversation to end, and any time she could change the subject to just complain about what was going on in her life, in her work, that is what a good 80% of the conversation involved, I would say. At one point, we went over to see her, and she said, we can talk if you want, I'm not ignoring you. And we were like, alright, yeah, I appreciate that. And Vi said, you know, we do want to talk, but it can be quite difficult to talk to you, because when we bring up things that are important to us, like try and tell you how reporting to the police is going and the things we're dealing with and how it's feeling emotionally, or how trauma has impacted us, or what our life's like, you can cut us off and walk out the room. And she goes, well, I don't mean to. And we're like, you're doing it now. You're doing it now. You don't listen. You're not listening. We don't feel heard. And it can be really difficult to bring up such difficult, painful conversations, especially if you're going to cut us off and start talking about what bothers you about your work. And she went, well, no, but what bothers me about my work? And she went off for like a few minutes talking about her work while we just stared at her, because it's right there. Just saying exactly this. And we just stared, like fighting every bone in her body. I could feel it, to not nod and to not appease and to not attune, and felt like there was strong emotional coercion, emotional contagion from the mum, like goading us to reassure, to say, yes, that is awful, and of course we want to give that empathy, but not under this fucking circumstance. Not when we're being dismissed and sidelined, and when it's not equal. So we just stared at her, and eventually she went, see, oh, stop it, I can't help it. That's it, isn't it? Because you just got to do the fucking work like I'm doing. It's not easy. Never said it was easy. What we said is we pay the price when you don't. We can't interact like that. I will not allow our system to interact like that. We're at a consensus that we don't deserve to be treated like that, so we will not be. So there was this conversation, and then there was a conversation about, do you remember in the car the other day when the sat-nav was confusing you, and you got really stressed and just shouted and shouted and stressed out and stressed out and stressed out until we went, oh fuck, fine, I'll use my phone. But it's like you're doing it because you're expecting us to do that. That's actually called emotional contagion, and it's not a healthy way to communicate. So if I said all this, she was talking to her this last time we went back, and we were there to help clear out a bunch of stuff, and we helped her clear out her room, we helped her set up stuff to get the house more in order, and we were having these conversations, and it was about emotional contagion. This one saying, you know, this time in the car very recently, when you drove us to the police station, because we had to meet with the sergeant, because all of our evidence had been scanned into digital copies, so we had to collect the hard copies so it don't get lost. It's better than having it posted and shit. So we collected our folder, and she's sort of stressed in the car about the sat-nav, but never once said anything of encouragement or anything about what we were going to do, about what we were doing. Didn't bring it up. Just stressed. It was really everything like this. And so we brought that up. We were like, the other day when we did this is emotional contagion. It's not healthy. We're not going to respond to that anymore, because that's what a boundary is. We ain't going to control your behaviour. We're just going to say, we ain't going to do that. We ain't going to predict your needs and respond when we're being coerced into it. Instead, what you can say is, man, this stresses me. This sat-nav's really fucking stressing me. Can you use your phone? And we'll go, yeah, sure, of course. And we'll use our phone. And she sort of just off. It's the response we get a lot. And then the next day, I had a conversation with her. And she said, well, what happens if you just can't bear me one day? And I was like, I don't know. I just left. I thought about it. I came back downstairs and I went, I don't like the way that's phrased. It's not about not bearing you. It's not about you. It's about the behaviours that you're exhibiting that you aren't changing. It's about the impact they have on us. We can't bear those, but we ain't ever going to just cut you off out the blue like abusers do. We're going to tell you what's hard for us and why. We're going to tell you what the behaviours are doing, what we need changed to stay in contact with you. And we're going to give you a chance to change them. And if you don't, we'll have to put up more boundaries, less contact, and eventually we'd have to cut you out if you won't change the behaviours that are harming us. And she just didn't respond. That's it. It's the response I get 90% of the time anyway. Then we had conversations about how important boundaries were. We've been having these conversations. They're not new. We had a repeat of this conversation. And then we went back home. And now we've had a boundary standing for years, right? We don't do unplanned visits. Like, not from fucking anyone. It would be a rare person we could do an unplanned visit from. I can think of 3. And they are massive exceptions to this rule. Even then, prefer contact. Something she's known for years. We don't do unplanned visits. She's got to arrange a visit. It's been that way. She knows that. A little bit more context. She had presents that she asked if we wanted before Christmas a couple of times, and we said no, we'll have a Christmas with you after Christmas. We'll come out in the new year because then we got money that we can afford to buy you a couple of things, and we'll have an after Christmas. This was agreed upon a couple of times. Another thing we said is we're quitting intoxicants. We're not going to have them anymore. And this was recent. So another bit of context, little bit of context. Last Christmas, she spoke to us over voice notes just before Christmas and said, I'll have to phone you on Christmas to let you know what the presents are about, because maybe some of them are confusing. And we were like, no, we hate phone calls. You know we hate phone calls. We've been telling you since we were like 5 that we hate phone calls, which she always used to ignore and say, just get it over and done with. We hate phone calls. We don't do phone calls now. Not unless we absolutely fucking have to. And she sent back, oh, God, well, no, I understand. It's like that for me. It's just, it's different with you. I thought it would be the same for you. Oh God, that's not a guilt trip. But it is. It is. And you saying it's not a guilt trip is just gaslighting. Guilt tripped and then you gaslit. This was last Christmas. I think it fits in the picture of the context. Because this day before, so this recent New Year's, after we've had all these, we went back, we helped her clean, we've had these conversations. She knows our boundaries. And we got a phone call from her the day before New Year's, just, okay, so sorry for no warning, but I'm outside yours. And we were like, what do you mean you're outside ours? And she sort of laughed. It was like, I'm outside yours. And I was like, Vi was really fucking understandably angry. We were just about eating. The suddenness of it, stomach totally switched off. We don't like to spring. It's disrespectful to Ryan as well. He's got anxiety. We need time to plan, to prepare for these things, to prepare for these conversations, to prepare for being able to hold our boundaries while we're constantly getting dismissed and having invalidating shit happen. We can't just have that sprung on us if she's going to behave like that, and we're going to have to correct and hold boundaries and explain and have really deep, intense conversations of trauma and shit. We need fucking warning. Besides, don't matter what the reason is, we don't need to give a reason. We just said, this is not okay. So Vi answered the phone and was like, what the fuck? You know, this is not fucking okay. And she was like, I know, it's so unacceptable. But still, we get the gate, we have to open it. And she's like, just open, let me in because I need to pee and I need to get tea. And we're like, this is not fucking acceptable. Vi was saying, I don't understand. You know this is not okay. You're saying it's not okay. But you're just still ignoring our boundaries. And she's like, I know, it's so unacceptable. Well, she let her in. Just fucking confused, going, how the fuck has this happened? And she was like, there was no time, let me explain to you, there was no time to let you know. I've brought over the presents. There's time to put the presents in the car then. And there was just no time because I contacted this friend and then I had to talk to his son and then I was just driving and it's like this stuff, so you're bulldozed into getting like, what the fuck? And just, there was no time. And she was like, but there was time. There was time though. There was time to contact us. There was a whole day between, and she was like, well, I did contact you, but you're up at such weird hours. I didn't know how to get hold of you. She was like, no, this isn't on us. You can ring. You can wake us up. We could have been out. This is not acceptable. She's like, I know, it's so unacceptable. And I was like, no, it really is unacceptable. And as she started saying, no, it really is, the mum's reaction was, and like pull out the intoxicants, go, but wait, but look, and pulled out the intoxicants with a face like, look. And then just at us yelling until it's enough stuff that it triggers early childhood reactions. We remember her shouting, we remember her screaming. It just pisses me off. But for Vi, she's been conditioned to self-abandon for safety. Guilt triggers CSA shit as well. So it's really hard to stay in our body with it. And just got worn down with it and was like, fuck, fine, maybe I can understand if, because the first thing she was saying is, but look, I feel really clear. I've had these really clear, you poked me so hard, with the last conversation about serious abuse we'd undergone and how her fucking reaction was not acceptable. That's a poke. And, you poked me so hard that I feel like I've woken up a bit. I feel really clear. And so Vi was like, there's parts of us that automatically don't believe it because look at the context. But on the off chance, what if she really was experiencing this? We remember what it was like when we suddenly became clear about shit. And we did go manic. A few breakdowns, everything went chaotic, that we couldn't find time. So Vi explained all this and said, I can cut you slack this one time. But it's not okay, it's not acceptable. And the mum was like, yes, I know, not acceptable. Then goes on to complain about work. Which is not something that I would be bringing up, but it's all we get. And we get interrupted about trauma and shit. Anything important we try to talk about. Anything going on for us, we're cut off with that. But we're expected to attune indefinitely for literally hours of conversation about what's wrong with work. I'd be okay giving somebody space to vent about work if it weren't for all the other factors involved. And the way it's done, it's fucked. It's narcissistic. And it's abusive and it's toxic. And even if we say, look, we feel like this is happening, it's just, no, I absolutely will not. So this happened, this whole visit. She stayed for a few hours. Vi asked to get taken to the shop. She was like, why are you here? Fine, take us to the shop. We had to go to a further shop because one shop was out of milk. And the mum was like, so it's a blessing in disguise, really? And we were like, no. This doesn't make this okay. And then when she left as if everything was all happy and like she'd brought over the presents. And Vi went, even when she was yelling at first, Vi was like, I feel pissed off about this too. I feel uncomfortable about the presents because like it feels like you're just trying to bribe me, so I can't be angry that you showed up and broken a boundary. And the mum was like, oh no, it's not like that. And then she was like, it isn't the emotional contagion stuff. And Vi was like, how would you know? You haven't looked into it. You don't know what it is. You're not watching your behaviour. You're not introspecting. You'd think it was something else, or you'd convince yourself it was. But she just... Then, this is the timeline we're now at. We're now at just about, the night before New Year's. She went home. I sent her a voice note saying, yeah, glad you got home safe. Good. You broke a boundary, and that is not okay. That is not something we're going to stand for. Our boundaries are not shit to be trampled on or eroded. They are not. And if you come back here again, unannounced, you will give us no choice but to turn you away at the gate, because we will be forced to uphold our boundary that you're trying to break. Well, she listened to that right away, but she didn't respond. And then she didn't respond for a couple more days. Really weird behaviour. And then she didn't say Happy New Year's. Never a year in our life she hadn't done that. So that's the silent treatment. That's fucking bullshit. Kids in here started panicking, sent her Happy New Year's, said thank you for the presents, even though we felt kind of gross saying it. We didn't want them. There was one present she gave us was a mirror. And I felt so angry and so sickened by the fact that she tried to buy us into breaking our boundaries and guilt-tripping my fucking co-host and all of the shit she's ever done to us, that I roundhouse kicked it one day because I was so fucking done. And it shattered into a million pieces. God, I felt good about that decision. Because we can't be bought. Not for shit. All we wanted was clear communication, and we said that to her the last time we visited. We just want clear communication. My voice note that I left when I said you can't trample our boundaries, this is what we'll have to do if you do it again. I also said, we just want clear communication with you. We want an authentic relationship, and that involves having clear communication. No, she blanked that. She never did respond. And then she blanked us whole 3 days over New Year's as well. And then the day after New Year's, so the 1st, she sent us a voice note. The weirdest fucking tone. The tone I'm used to, not a tone my co-host is used to. Hello, I'm so sorry that I didn't respond to you. I just fell asleep between 9 and 10. And I wish you a new year filled with health. For context, we've had health issues since we were 12, 13. Really bad. We're bedbound for 4 years. Fatigue, muscle aches, pains, memory problems, neurological shit. Really bad shit. And since starting trauma processing, we've had to have less and less B12 injections. And it's improved more and more. We still got to be careful. We still got to pace ourselves. We still couldn't do the consistent day in, day out exercise, but it's improved so fucking much. Ain't bedbound. Could do so much. And when we told her that, we just got, Even our therapist was happier than that. Our therapist was happy that our health was improving and our mum was not. So her saying, I wish this year gives you health? Fuck that. Fuck do you? And authenticity. But she hadn't responded to my voice note. She hadn't ever responded when we said that. So we kids in here felt too guilty not to say anything, so we sent back a heart as a compromise, because we don't want to do the withdrawal of love that we get from her when we don't do things she doesn't like. We're not like that. So we sent back a heart. Then We get to last week. We posted the video. An open letter to our abuser. One of. That cunt. And she sent us a message on WhatsApp. We haven't been talking really, but she sent us a message saying, thinking of you all and sending love. Nothing about the video. Nothing about the topic, just that. And we thought she's just not responded to the boundary thing and she's going to push it under the rug. So Vi said, thanks. Have you listened to Vince's voice note from the 31st? And she went, yes, I have. But I went from a really clear state, which happened on this date, no, certainly, definitely this date, to I was really disturbed and anxious. But you look at the dates she gives and it don't align with that being anything to do with my voice note. It was days later, this clear state that she had that then lost. But then in a further message, days down the line, she's suddenly been struggling for all these days and everything's been really difficult. And the dates don't fucking match up. But the way she's phrased it is like, yeah, I was going to respond, but I went from a really clear state that I had on this date, where you had a clear state, apparently, according to your dates, right after I'd voice noted you, so you could have responded in the clear state. But then you lost it. But it looks like it's meant to be attributed to the fact that I sent this voice note by where it's put in the sentence, even though the dates don't align with that. And parts in here that have been cued to feel guilt and self-abandon felt like they were supposed to feel guilty for that. So again, pain that we don't deserve to feel. And confusing fucking word salad. Dates that don't align. And later don't align even more. So we said, look, we're not feeling good. She said, how are you feeling at the very end of that, after everything, a big paragraph of what happened to her, and then how are you feeling? And we said, we're feeling exhausted and we're feeling pissed off and frustrated because we've set a really important boundary with you and we don't know if we're being taken seriously. And she said, no, I do definitely take seriously your boundaries. I'll respond more when I've defragged from work. A couple more days, no response. Then she sends a voice note saying, I just wanted to think it through and be able to respond with care because I say things that I often don't say what I mean. But I do, of course I say, of course your boundaries and needs are important to me. I hope you know, oh no, you don't know that. Like a laugh. Like it's on us for not knowing that. And then, can't even fucking remember what the rest of that voice note was. But she said she wanted to give a thought out answer, and I said, look, to be honest, I don't need a long, well thought out answer. I just need you to say, I understand your boundaries, and yes, in future I will work on that not happening. And if you want to give an explanation of your, she said, there are reasons it happened, I can tell you them if you like, but that's it. That's it. Because it's the same shit. It's the same shit it's been my whole fucking life. It's the same shit it's been our whole fucking life. And it's just words. So then we sent her the final voice note saying, look, do you remember when I said you saw us in the clothing that he was going to take pictures of us in and you encouraged that we try it? And she went, I would never do that. Here, finally, that's it, I'm going to send you a slide. Here is a slide of the child pornography that he took of us, just one. Do you recognise those boots? They're your boots. Do you remember the conversation? Oh, try my boots, maybe they'll complete the look. While we were going, we're not comfortable with this. And she said to that, I'm so sorry I didn't keep you safe. You deserved to be safe. I hope I can show you that you can trust me. I see why you do not trust me on this. But it's more words. It's just meant to sound convincing and pull the heartstrings of everyone in here that hopes that she can see us and change. But her actions don't align, and they never have. And those actions are still not aligning because she still came over here and crushed our boundaries so she didn't inconvenience somebody else and because it suited her. And when she was questioned about it, she still said, no, of course I understand, sir. My last voice note with her was, look, we love you. We ain't ever not going to love you. This ain't about that. And I don't want you to shame spiral because that ain't helpful. It's your responsibility to keep yourself level and regulated when we bring the stuff to you and not shame spiral so that you can take on board what we're saying and put it into proactive change. That ain't on us. You get therapy, you can contact us. Until then, we do not deserve to be abused and treated like this, and I am going to protect my system as always if you won't. Like usual, like our whole fucking life. See that slide? This is what happens when you crush our boundaries. So you say, of course you don't know that. No, we don't, because your actions have led to us not believing you. Your actions have led to us not knowing that. Because you don't. You don't respect our boundaries. You just say you do, and you act like it's almost an outrageous thing that we'd question it. But look at that slide, and look at what happens to us, and I pay the price. Because I will keep my system safe, no matter if you won't. So I'm the one that fucking suffers. We're all the ones that fucking suffer when you crush past our boundaries. And you saying you hope that you can prove it to us is just words. It's just words. Because your actions are still doing the same things. This is why that boundary thing was so important. Because look what happens when you don't respect our boundaries and when you just say you do. And you taught us actions, not words. And I don't want you to feel victimised and to go into a victim mentality and to feel as if we're saying you're a horrible person so you don't work on it, because that ain't our words, that ain't what we're saying. What we're saying is your behaviour is harmful, your behaviour is dangerous to us, and to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe, we cannot be in contact with you if you won't change, and if you won't look at it, and if you won't do the work. And that was why we had to cut contact with her, with the aunt. She kept saying that she was not in support of our abuser, but she still has face-to-face conversations, over the phone conversations. She casually mentioned, oh yes, last time he said that you were dead to him when he contacted me to say that when all of this happened. He was angry and bitter. And I went, what do you say to him? She didn't respond to that ever. And then when we contacted her this time, I sent her like a 19-minute long voice note saying, this is all the shit we can't deal with. This is all the shit we don't deserve to deal with. You say you have no intention of abandoning us, but in these moments, you abandon us. When you say, I doubt he even has the photos. We have the slides, we have the evidence, now he did. What are you saying with that? Are you saying we should drop it? What's the implication of that sentence? What's the point? You say you're not going to abandon us, but you ignore what we say and you respond to him. You initiate contact with him. You keep in contact with him. You foster an environment where you say to abusers, you can abuse people here and you will have no consequences from me, and I will not defend them, and I will defend you, and I will refuse to give out your contact details or contact details of your family when they ask for them, because she wouldn't feel comfortable. And what she said was, I just wanted to protect his daughters, his adult daughters, who we wanted to contact because we thought maybe they've been abused. I mean, definitely. But maybe they don't have evidence and we do, and maybe they would want to be able to hold him accountable legally. So maybe we could work together. But no, she wanted to protect them, and she didn't feel comfortable sharing their details because she thought it would only harm them, us contacting them. So in the voice note I said, it ain't us. It ain't us harming them. It's him. It's his abuse, his paedophilia, his fucking shit. That's what harms them. It's not us talking to them about it that would harm them. You're not protecting them, you're protecting him. You're protecting yourself. And you're phrasing it altruistically so that you can lie to yourself about it. We've experienced gaslighting and abuse that we don't deserve to experience from you. You keep saying you're not in support of him, but your actions are. And you keep saying you are in support of us, but your actions are not. You blank us, you support him, you talk to him. We post this video on Facebook and she said, oh yeah, just seeing it spun me out for a couple of days. She said, I just can't reconcile with him that he's harmful. I just can't see him as harmful. He had a great relationship with his daughter when I lived with them. I saw nothing but good between them. He was a kind, loving, liberal father. And we went, no, he's not. And she said, somebody tells me that a mutual friend tells me that you're worried that he abused them. A monstrous thought to me. It's all so underhand, but you feel like you're supposed to take the blame for that. So we went, yeah, It is a monstrous thought. Of course I think he did. I think he did, yes. It's a monstrous thought. It's a monstrous action. He's a monstrous man. That ain't on us for suggesting something that he did is monstrous, because he fucking is monstrous. How fucking dare you say it like that? He must think himself innocent. That's the only reason I could see him saying this. All these subtle things are supposed to colour our reality. Well, you can go under the guise of never having said it in support of him, because you're just playing devil's advocate. You're just what? You're just repeating victim blaming, abuse apologist bullshit that we have suffered our whole life, while we've been taught that we sacrifice ourselves for our abusers and we never question them. And you can all get fucked if you want us to do that, because we are worth so much more. And they deserve to burn in hell for their abuse. I am not going to remain complicit in your fucking abuse apologist rhetoric. None of us are. One thing she said was, "I'm sorry I didn't respond. I struggle with Vince. I feel attacked." Yeah. If you feel attacked, as Violet said, because I was gonna respond. When we were 16, we cut them off, actually, because of the same shit. The same shit, but we couldn't. Not everyone in here was in a safe enough place to be able to see it. The place we were staying wasn't safe either. So, since we were still receiving abuse, there weren't enough support. I cut them off and I said these things. Not so well spoken then, as I didn't have the language, but I said fuck you for abusive shit. And then my co-host, for reasons of safety and shit that our family has done our whole life, was forced to get into contact with them again because we were suicidal and we had no one else. So, this time around, when I had messaged the aunt and she had said this, I sent the mum the voice note last because it's too painful for the parts of us who've been conditioned to feel guilt and to replace our emotions with our mums. Still, her response, her facial expression, her pain. It's been days and we can barely feel our own because that's all we see. Because that's all we've ever been taught to see, to abandon ours for it. We're working so hard to just feel our pain at this point. And to let go because we are not responsible for her emotions. We are not responsible for this cut of contact. This was what we were forced into to protect ourselves from their actions, that they wouldn't change. So when I was I'd sent it to the mum. I was going to send a voice note to the aunt again, because I'd said I'll give you time to respond, but look, if you can't see him for the abuser he is, we do not deserve to be undermined and dismissed and have our abuser protected and us gaslit. So we'll have to cut contact with you for our safety. And you don't know how much it breaks the heart of everyone in here that I have to say this, but I'll give you time to respond. And then she sent this text of, I struggle with Vince. I feel attacked. And spent a day, we get really bad migraines. I think it's a vein. I think it's a vein being affected because our blood pressure, the room spins. We can't breathe right. And the pulsing and migraine in our head and neck is so bad. No painkillers fucking touched it. Took like a day of that before it settled down again. And every time we'd think about the message, it would throb up, the room would spin. So we recovered for a day. And then I was going to send the aunt a voice note, and Vi said, no, give me the phone. And for a second I thought of when we were 16, we were at each other's throats all the time. And I was exiled, and so was the persecuted part of her. And the host part had to protect us by seeing this mistreatment and this abuse from our family as normal. And I was afraid that it would be the same. She said, trust me. And I did. So I pulled back and I let her have the phone. And I heard and watched her say this fucking amazing shit. Like, we do not deserve to be treated like this. This is not okay. If you feel attacked, we're attacking our abusers, and if you feel attacked, it's because you're stood on the wrong side. Vince is the only one in our whole fucking family that has ever protected us, and other people in here, whether or not we know them or they want to be named. But maybe for fronting, for dealing with the family, I was the only one that protected them from that, from certain things for sure. And she said that he's the only one that's ever protected us. And you struggle with him, and you say that like that's okay. Like we haven't been exiled from our family our whole life and taught to self-abandon just so we were accepted and so that we were safe, even though it meant accepting abuse. Like that's ever been okay. Are you going to struggle with me too, now that I'm protecting us? He said he'd give you time to respond, but I won't, because I can see that this is the same shit and that it's just words and we deserve better. She sent it and she blocked them. In such a state, it's like floating out of our body, barely breathing. She collapsed to her knees after doing it. Our whole body has been through the fucking ringer for days, and every kid in here has been devastated by them. And it's taken so long to see that it's not us that's been doing that. And what we did was the right thing, no question. Whether or not they can ever see that, that ain't on us, ain't shit to do with us. I know. I see us. I can't ever say how fucking grateful and proud I am. I'm relieved. All of us, that we got each other's backs in here now. That we know what treatment we deserve and we won't accept less. We won't accept abuse anymore. And I ain't being turned into the enemy for saying that now. I'm so fucking grateful. So fucking proud. So fucking relieved. I feel like I can breathe finally, like I'm free. I know it hurts. And I promise I'm going to keep us safe. We're going to look after each other. We've got supportive family and friends around us now that would never dream of treating us the way they do. We don't have any reason to feel ashamed or guilty. They do. We ain't going to internalise their shame, their disowned guilt anymore. It's what we were taught to be a fucking vessel of. No more. They can internalise their own fucking shame and guilt. We are free from that. We're going to work hard to remain so. And that is why we had to go no contact with our family.